Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We had a little kerfuffle with stream scheduling. So this is the I'm the Prairie Banana. We're going to be talking about the Grays currencies, PTGC and UFO on Pulse Chain. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, watch it all the way through, make a comment down below. If you would like to join my private Telegram, there will be a link to the Telegram in the description of this video once I have it cooking. So yeah, I'm going to bring Zen up and we're live.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was just explaining to everybody, I had a little kerfuffle with it was all me with the StreamYard, and I sent out the wrong link for one that didn't exist somehow. So, but we got it figured out and we're live, and which is the whole point. So how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Spectre 2972. It's good to see you. Lemonade, always in the chat. Like and subscribe. Yes, please. Thank you for that plug, Lemonade. Like and subscribe. It helps. Why? Because it helps the algorithm. We are in an age where we have to learn to work with machines. Right, Zen?
Yeah, that's, I think if you're not working with AI, if you're not working with social media, if you're not working with every machine that's at your fingertips, you're going to get left behind. So
if you're not working with AMM bots,
the same thing, right? If you're not utilizing them, you're going to get left behind.
You're going to get left behind. You're going to leave money behind. Yeah.
Everything, even, getting people to your YouTube channel and everything, it's very P versus P. There's only so much mind share that each user has, and we need to do our best to get, obviously the products that we believe are sustainable and strong and good in front of the faces of new users. And
yes.
Like, retweeting, sharing, leaving some nice comments, even if you don't have anything to say, all helps the algorithm. So do what you can. Obviously, I think if you're here, me and Banana and I both believe that PTGC is a great place for users to store value or also speculate, kind of depending on how you're looking at it. We do think there's a ton of upside potential here as well, especially here on Pulse Chain, and we want to put this product in front of as many people as possible, not only because that helps our own personal bags, but also because I believe that will help those users as well, more than most other products.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what somebody said the other day, and on the topic of liking and subbing and all of that, do it for all, especially Gray's currency material on YouTube, Twitter, and all that, but also Pulse Chain, like that would be the second priority, or maybe the priority, the main priority. But then just crypto in general, we're trying to drive adoption. So, subbing to channels, commenting, all of that activity. It helps, like even a simple like on a video or a like on a or a heart, on a Twitter post. It all contributes to the success of the Grays currencies, Pulse Chain, and crypto. So yeah, well, we're going to talk about the monthly data. I mean, but is there anything that you would like to perhaps, get the community caught up on? I mean, if there is.
I'm still getting caught up, to be honest with you. I was hoping you had some stuff for me.
Yeah. I might have some. Okay, this is my latest thought about Pulse Chain and the broader market, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and all that. And I'm actually working on a post about this. So if you guys want to look at my Twitter, at some point after this stream, you will see a post with this thought in there, and that is, I really believe I have not seen the evidence myself. So caveat, do your own research. But I really believe that for some time now, even the price of Pulse Chain has been suppressed. So I'm not going to be in the crowd that's grumbling and molly grubbing about, why aren't we doing better than the rest of the market? Because I will hang my hat on that. I keep hearing it, and I hear it from multiple sources. And it could be just people trying to, make themselves feel better. It could be. But, when I hear it from what I consider credible sources, I can take on that opinion myself. But, I have not done the research. But it would also make sense. So,
Yeah,
I'm
are
not
you saying intentionally suppressed or just
intentionally.
okay?
Yeah.
Because it's for sure being suppressed. That's obvious, but I think the question is intentionally being suppressed or just large players in the ecosystem obviously not wanting to store as much value as maybe they sacrificed here as of right now, just due to the environment that we're kind of looking at. I definitely understand where some large players maybe be coming from, because currently Pulse Chain on the chart is a great opportunity, but as far as feeling like an investment, it definitely feels on the riskier side of things, and people with larger amounts of money sometimes don't like to take as much risk for the reward, even though I still believe that the risk to reward ratio here on Pulse Chain is probably the best you're going to get in crypto. But it definitely feels to me like some people are like, as time goes on, it feels like it's almost getting riskier and riskier, even though the entry opportunity is better and better. Just kind of seeing ETH moving up and Pulse Chain getting almost further and further behind in the last 4 years, it's, I think, kind of rubbing some larger players the wrong way.
Yeah. I think the suppression, if indeed it exists, is coming from the top, not necessarily sacrificers. Did you see the post that I put on Twitter yesterday about Ethereum in the beginning, in the early days?
I did see it, but I'd like to go over it again if
Okay.
you don't mind.
I'd love to, because for me, it's exciting. I was explaining it to somebody last night, and I think I'll be onboarding somebody this evening, one of my buddies. So I'm gonna talk to him about this. But back at the beginning, I think it was August 2015 when Ethereum launched. I'm not looking at the tweet. I'll just have to go from memory. It launched, ran up in the same day to $2.70. I got all this off of Grok, and then within 2 months, it had plummeted down to 40 cents, which was what Grok says was the bottom, 40 cents. Well, then it goes into a bull cycle and topped out at $1,400 some odd dollars. So if a person, this seldom happens, but if a person had caught the bottom and sold the top, it was an 11,120x in price. 11,120x. And so where is Pulse Chain right now? Well, it initially ran up, just like every token does on the first day, on launch day, and it bottomed out on March 31st. And we're going into a bull cycle. So, what do we expect? Maybe not 11,000x. Maybe. The only way we're going to find out is to go through it.
Yeah, one thing I think is really suppressing the price currently with Pulse Chain is the fact that when people sacrificed, it was in most people's mind an investment into the blockchain. And let's say it was $500 million invested into the blockchain. Well, that means those POS tokens were given to those people upon the launch of Pulse Chain, right? So there's all these people who are now holding technically 500 million or more dollars worth of Pulse Chain, right? And actually it's currently lower. But the thing is a majority of that money that was invested into Pulse Chain wasn't actually used in Pulse Chain yet, or maybe it never gets used. But what that equals is it's kind of like a debt to the system, because you have all these people who either want to get some of that money back, or maybe they just feel like they need to get some of that money back because of how long it's been. And what that equals is price suppression, or it makes it very hard to move into the next level without utilizing any of the money that was invested into the protocol, sacrificed into the protocol, I guess is the better word, to help the protocol succeed. And in my opinion, if none of that gets used, we will have to go through a lot of onboarding to really even out that investment to none of that value being put into the system. It's kind of like, imagine it in a smaller scale. Imagine a protocol taking in $1 million and then airdropping the tokens to, let's say 1,000 people that donated or sacrificed that $1 million. But none of that $1 million was actually put into the project. You just put $5,000 in LP and just gave everyone the tokens. Well, that project most likely wouldn't be sustainable. It's not a sustainable, business model, even close, in my opinion. The only thing that really is making me bullish, and I posted a chart about this yesterday, is the majority of those funds that were sacrificed or donated were put into Ethereum. And now Ethereum is up, compared to Pulse Chain, it's up drastically. So the money that was actually sacrificed is up, a few X's, let's say it's 2X or whatever. And the value that everyone's holding is currently down 70%. Right. So there's actually something happening behind the scenes to where the value that was put in is actually increasing, but the value everyone's holding has been decreasing constantly.
Yes.
Which makes it a lot easier to buy out any short-term holders, which there is a cap to people willing to take profits in their position. Not everyone's willing to sell their whole position. Some people are willing to sell their whole position. Some people are willing to sell it at certain levels. Hey, when we get to 5x SAC, I'm going to take 20%. Everyone has their own plan, right? But my point is the amount of buying pressure that we have, or that entities have, is increasing currently. And it could increase a lot more to where that value can actually start trickling into Pulse Chain, and not even all of it, a portion of it, a very small portion of it. And it could do everything we need here on Pulse Chain, along with helping PTGC and UFO actually do the X multiplier. Because that's still one of the main factors of the PTGC and UFO system that we haven't really gotten to see happen yet, is the blockchain actually increasing in value, new users actually coming in, new inflows of value, even if it's not from new users, even if it's just, previously sacrificed value or whatever.
Yep. So my spoiler, for my post that I'm going to put up today, I went back 4 months from today, back 4 months for Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, and Pulse, and they're all in the positive by varying degrees. And I think I'm going to throw Solana in the mix. And, I think it's just not all doom and gloom. To be quite honest, it is a little gloomy. It is, but it's not doomy. I'm not giving up.
Yeah, we're working in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think that's obvious. I think it's just not as fast and as volatile or extreme as most people want. It's definitely a slow growth, and it's going slow, and the movement up is less extreme than I think most people are hoping / wishing for. But we are gaining in the right direction.
I think people are
price. Morale, probably not.
Yeah. I think people are like, oh, if we're going to get 100x or 500x, How are we going to do it between now and March? That's a lot to compress in a short amount of time. Well, you know, it would be one, if it happened, that would be one of the magnificent stories in crypto. You know, maybe that's the plan. I don't know.
Yeah, they really, the X's really start to compound. I think previously I talked about that 42 10% moves in a row is a 50X.
Yeah, so it'd be 42 20% moves, or 84. Would it be 84?
It doesn't
It
math
doesn't work
out
that
like
way.
that. It
Yeah.
doesn't math out like that.
Yeah.
It starts to compound pretty quick, but I could probably figure out what, how many 20% moves it takes, or, a conglomerate of some 10s, some 20s, some flat days. It's not going to be only up and to the right. There's up days and down days, but we have seen 20% moves with PTGC, UFO, with Pulse Chain in the past. So I definitely think it's in the cards, especially if some external funds start flowing in. You'd have the effect of those funds flowing in, along with new users flowing in by seeing those funds flowing in. And I also think by having the direction more clear of what's happening with Pulse Chain, with users seeing that maybe possibly some of those funds do get used, or even if it's not those funds, just big entities wanting to be exposed to Pulse Chain. I think that would actually stop some of the sell pressure going on, because people would feel like, okay, the time has finally come. Like, I'm no longer feeling impatient as well. Human emotions are a crazy thing, right? Like, with where we are right now, you'll see a lot of people contemplating taking profits, but then when the green candles come, a lot of people don't take profits as much because they want it to go to the next level, and then the next level. That kind of greed factor kind of plays in.
Okay. While you were chatting, I did a little experiment on ChatGPT. How many 5% moves would it take to get to a 500x? It's 128. So 128 days. 128 days of 5% is a 500x, and that's 4 months. Is that true? Yeah, 4 months. So it's possible.
Yeah, it really starts to compound on itself as it starts
does.
to get a little bit higher. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And especially if you throw a God candle in the mix off the bottom, like a quick 2x move, that really speeds up the timeline too.
Yeah. Yeah, true. And a couple little God candles sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, which is possible, right? Like to get a 2x move on Pulse Chain right now, I think is just a couple $1 million. And what we see on other blockchains, a couple $1 million flowing into it, not even by the founder, just by investors, it's the norm.
Oh yeah, man. There's people got $1 million and they're sitting in their bank accounts, man. Several million probably.
Yeah, not to mention I think it's 5 million just sitting in stables/ETH on Pulse Chain right now that hasn't been used, that got bridged in like a month ago.
Yeah, I did hear that. Well, shall we get into the illustrations?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right. So I built these out over the last couple days, and I was going to rearrange these Zen, because the ones toward the end, the illustrations toward the end, they're more exciting than the ones at the beginning. It's just I can't explain why. I can. It's probably more the slides at the end are more like user based, like how much rewards are we earning and that sort of thing. But the slides at the beginning are just kind of But we can talk about them, and we can just blast past the ones that there might not be much to talk about. They're all just I added to them. Like when we did this at the beginning of September, we had 12 months. Now we have 13. So I just added that 13th month. So there may not be anything there to talk about, but we can pop them up and there's like, I think there's 45 of them. So we'll just go through them one after the other.
Yeah,
And
I think it's important, especially as pulse chain starts moving upwards, right? I still think we haven't really seen this, but as pulse chain starts moving upwards, this means that there's going to be new users flowing in, and that's going to mean new users flowing into PTGC and UFO. So as we do these monthlies, we have to kind of remind ourselves there is going to be users who wasn't here last month who hasn't seen any of these slides. So maybe it is repetitive for you or me or some of the OGs that have been kind of sitting here and just supporting these spaces, but a lot of this is for the new users coming in that we want to showcase all the past data and, the 1 month of new data that we have as well.
Yes, very true. Very true. Okay, so this one is from August 2024 through September last month. Price for PTDC and volume. And I think I said this last time. I don't have all of these slides and all the nuances and such in my head. But I should be able to, explain most of the slides. But I think this is a percent. Yet the 808 is a percent. I should have these pulled up over here. So the price is up 808%. I'm pretty sure. Let me get this pulled up. That way because I can hover over a slide and it'll tell me what is in the background. So let me get this over here on my other screen. Okay. And then, of course, the volume is up 356%. Unless I'm way off the mark there. Let me click on this slide. And look in the background there. Does that look right to you, Zen? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. That looks right. One thing I was kind of looking at is I'm interested to see as pulse chain increases, because what we're kind of seeing is PTGC and UFO have increased in price, but pulse chain hasn't really increased. Volume hasn't really increased on chain in general in the last 13 months. So as pulse chain increases alongside PTGC and UFO, or with PTGC and UFO, obviously want PTGC and UFO to increase even more. This is just obviously the X multiplier for PTGC and UFO. But we want to see growth out of pulse chain, because growth out of pulse chain means values flowing in. That means new users are flowing in. And what I think this is going to do for the volume of PTGC and UFO is I think this is going to help keep the volume increasing just as much as the X's of PTGC and UFO as well. And we want that within PTGC and UFO because that's going to keep the buy and burn increasing rapidly, and it's going to increase the LP ads increasing rapidly. It's going to increase the DAO increasing, the value within the DAO, and also the APY for holders and stakers. So it's interesting to see that as PTGC's price and UFO's price is actually separating from PLS and the volume, I do think that pulse chain suppression is also holding back the overall machine of PTGC as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's become more clear to me where PTDC and UFO could go after I did that research yesterday on Ethereum and its beginnings. I mean, these Grays currencies are some very serious holdings, and not just in the price performance, but in their tokenomics, like the fact that they're leveraging the AMM bots that are paying fees, rewarding holders and all that day in and day out.
Yeah, I think that's everything, right? Like price performance is definitely something, but a lot of price performance isn't sustainable if you don't have mechanics behind them to help sustain that growth. And with that growth, you want that growth to mean something in other features. So like our price growth is going to mean liquidity is increasing, and when liquidity increases, this means market makers need to move more money. And when you say market makers need to move more money, this means more buy and burns are happening with that price growth. There are more LP ads are happening with this price growth, or more APY is happening with this price growth, which makes the price growth so much more sustainable compared to most other products that exist. If you look at, I would say 99% of crypto out there, when you say price growth, you're like, okay, 100x. You're like, okay, but what did this equal for sustainability? Well, I think the most sustainable factor is new users are buying in at higher floors. This goes for every cryptocurrency. You have people who have got in early, and every year that goes by, every percentage increase that happens, you have new users finding out about it and buying in at higher floors, which is helping the overall product hit these new floors, because you have new people coming in with new like price targets that they're happy to get in at, even if it dips, even if it goes higher. But something very unique with our system, as it goes to every single new price floor, as the blockchain increases over time, cycle after cycle, this is going to make the machine stronger and stronger and stronger, and the machine will run at higher levels every single time it moves to the next higher. A 2x from here, it's going to be running at 2 times the power. 10x from here, it's going to be running at 10x the power. 100x from here, it's going to be running at 100x the power. And we don't even know what that looks like yet. We can speculate what that looks like, but I think that's going to give us such an advantage over every other cryptocurrency that exists that isn't utilizing these same mechanics. It's, in my opinion, going to almost look unfair to the advantage we have.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pulse X is going to have this advantage as well. Personally, I think it's still being somewhat suppressed due to the amount of sacrifice that it took in, and again, people wanting to take profits on what they invested in the system. But there is a point where those people are somewhat washed out. You see the buy and burn of Pulse X, $10,000 a day, $20,000 a day, some days $50,000. Same thing with PTGC. You have $1,000 a day, $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day, just every single day for the rest of the existence of blockchain. And if you look at how long Vitalik's mindset is on Ethereum, he wants it to last longer than his lifespan. We can assume that Pulse Chain kind of has that same lifespan, longer than Richard's lifespan. And if you look at some of these products that launched day one, like Pulse X or PTGC, a few months into the launch of the blockchain, what this can expand out over time is with a natural growth of a blockchain, and it doesn't need to even be extreme. Let's say from bottom 100x in the next year or so, or multiple years, or maybe even multiple cycles. This could be massive for people who actually take advantage of getting a position size at these early days. If you lock in even a shark position or a dolphin position at these early days of PTGC and UFO, what that could equal a cycle down the road, 100x of Pulse Chain down the road, could be life-changing. It could actually change your kids' lives too, because you can live off the passive income. You actually might not even ever need to tap into your investment. And that investment can continue to grow as everything appreciates on chain, as blockchain in general gets adoption.
Yes. Yep, and it's happening. Blockchain is going to, like my buddy that I'll be talking to tonight, he's so excited to talk about crypto. He heard me talk about it just briefly. I mentioned it to that group of guys, and then he got something on his phone this week, and he comes over. He's like, "Hey, man, I want to talk to you about crypto." So we're going over to their house tonight. We're gonna talk about it. So they're coming. Fun. Yeah. The retail buyers, they're coming one by one. One by one, they'll be here. So here's the next slide is PTDC. And the first line is average price, and then total volume, reflections per 100 million PTDC, and then staking yield per 100 million. And I get excited. And the comparison is August 2024 to September 2025. It's a contrast. And you can see it right there, black and white. You know what the difference was in price, volume, reflections, and staking. And if you notice the reflections and staking rewards, essentially the token count reduced, but the value tripled. You know, just like you said, is how it's going to work. Just like how we all understand it's supposed to work. As volume goes up, you get rewarded more. As price goes up, you get rewarded the same value in less tokens.
Yeah, correct. That's one big reason why I think it's so important to, if you are looking to be exposed to PTGC and UFO, even if you're not, it's hard to kind of explain, but if you're even trying to just be lightly exposed to PTGC and UFO in the future, because you do believe it will be successful on chain, but you're looking to like rotate gains or something like that into the product, not come in with dry powder or something like that, I really would think you need to reconsider that idea, because by taking advantage of these low prices, even if it's with a little bit of dry powder, it doesn't need to be much, you're locking yourself into a percentage of the supply for possibly very little amount of money. And you can let that percentage of supply just increase over time as the blockchain increases, as PTGC and UFO increases, and that percentage of supply is your claim check on the liquidity web. It's your claim check on the value that gets generated, and that's your claim check on the APY that gets generated over time. And you can see right now with this chart, yes, you might not be increasing your quantity of tokens unless volume increases rapidly on chain. The quantity of tokens could actually stay somewhat relative. The reason why the quantity of tokens has been dropping is because PTGC's price has been increasing faster than the volume. If volume increases on chain, I think this could actually keep relative or maybe even increase more in the future, depending on how extreme the volatility and volume gets on chain. But the thing more important to me is you can see the dollar figure increasing over time. So what you can see here is the APY is increasing in dollar terms, not in token quantity. So by locking in the position in these early days, yes, you might be receiving less tokens in the future, but dollar value wise, it might equal amounts that are enough for you to comfortably pay some bills off of, or maybe pay a lot of bills off of, or possibly completely live your life off of, based on how large of a position you take in these early days of the blockchain in protocols that actually pay you passively off of things that aren't based on inflation.
Right. And the beauty of those, okay, in August 2024, reflections, we were earning 126,400 for that month for every 100 million PTDC held. Now that the price has, I'm trying to get my eyes on it. Now that the price has basically 10x'd, that $4.90 is now worth $49. Those tokens have increased in value. So that's why getting in early can also pay off.
Yeah, compounding right now maybe doesn't seem like that much, but if those tokens do the X's with your initial, by delaying your gratification on your APY, that APY can actually equal a lot in the future. You know, if you kind of even like hold yourself back, let's say a year on your APY, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to compound APY for 1 year. And then after that 1 year, that's when I'm going to start living off of the APY or something like that. And you can even keep track of this and like delay yourself 1 year on your APY and let that APY actually revalue. Well, like Banana said, that $4 you might have received could actually be $40. So that's now, instead of a coffee, that's an electrical bill or something like that, depending on where you live and how much electricity you receive. But by holding yourself back 1 year, now what you're doing is you're not only letting what you received day one revalue, you're also letting what you're receiving today, because now what you're receiving today, if you're tapping into the APY that you received a year prior, now the APY that you're receiving today, you're going to be able to let that revalue by a whole year as well. So you're kind of creating a 1 year delay on all your APYs, letting what you receive revalue by whatever the token price does in that year. And as Banana said, pretty much what the last year has been a 10x. Let's say in the next year, it's another 10x or it's 100x. You know, this is all dependent on what the blockchain does as well. But, you know, I think that's a really interesting idea that maybe not on this stream, but me and Banana could kind of create a good illustration for of delaying your APYs a year and what that could actually equal as far as your passive income being increased could be.
Yes.
I never really thought about it, but I think a lot of players do that naturally. Like instantly when you get into something, you can usually at least delay your gratification in that product 1 year. And by delaying your gratification in that product, you look at a lot of more traditional investments, and we do want blockchain, and blockchain is actually becoming a little bit more traditional with ETFs and stuff like that. Larger players are coming in and actually treating it as true investment vessels due to the price appreciation mostly. Luckily, within PTGC, we have more than just price appreciation. We have price appreciation and APY built into the system. So we can actually show people like, hey, you know, you were already going to delay gratification with pretty much any other product that exists, with stocks, with houses, with properties, etc. So maybe try to delay gratification on your APY within the PTGC system along with the product itself. And then a year in, start tapping into that APY, and what you were receiving first month, maybe pay attention to that. You can maybe even just track how much you've earned in the whole year and say, okay, in the whole year I earned this. I'm going to take a 12th of it, you know, moving forward of this size. And if the product increased by 10x, that means your APY in that first month increased by 10x. If the product increases in 100x in this next year, you're looking a year later, well, now your APY increased 100x you received in that first month.
Right. I can work on something. I wrote some notes down, so I'll work something up on that.
Especially where Pulse Chain is right now.
Yeah.
I look at where Pulse Chain and where PTGC is right now, and I keep telling myself that this whole entire blockchain and the sustainable products on the chain can revalue so drastically in 1 year. It's insane. You're just talking about how you're looking at Ethereum, and in one bull cycle, it did like, what, 1,000x? And if you look at not even just
11,000x.
11,000x, okay, yeah. And then you look at other blockchains, like even some of the poorer performing ones, they still have done like 100x.
Yes. Redoku asks, the goal of the reserve fund is 10 billion PLS. He's asking about the goal of the reserve fund.
I definitely would like it to get there. I didn't really have like an extreme like hard cap on it. One of the things I was kind of looking for before we start re-injecting those funds back in is PLS moving back in the positive direction and a new flow of users flowing into Pulse Chain. So then we could actually utilize those funds and showcase the power of the PTGC machine to new users flowing into Pulse Chain. the PLS obviously could be worth more. Let's say PLS gets back to SAC price. Well, PLS would obviously be increasing in price at that point. That means PTGC's chart would be moving up. That means, let's say at this point we have 10 billion PLS. Well, that means we would have $1 million in the reserve that we could start injecting into the PTGC chart, making it to where the new users that have came into Pulse Chain, which is a guarantee because Pulse Chain's price wouldn't be up 3x without new users flowing in, most likely. So we would actually be able to showcase the power of the machine at that point when the users come here, not only from our price increasing naturally from Hart's Law and new users finding out about the product, but also utilizing our DAO at a strategic point. And then obviously, as we're utilizing those funds, let's say it is around 10 billion, we're obviously going to be earning more funds at that same time. So we might even be able to get it to the point where we're not completely depleting it, but kind of just rotating ourselves around that 10 billion mark, which would be super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice to have like a floor and constant reserve.
Yeah, I think the floor could be a little lower, right? Like maybe we bring it all the way back down to like 5 billion or even lower than that, like really get our chart kind of moving again. But there isn't really a hard number that we're looking for, I guess is the point of the answer to the question. We're making decisions based on information that we're given from the blockchain and information we're given in all the information daily and trying to make the best educated decision for the protocol's success off of that. One of the big things that we're kind of waiting for is we're waiting for the market to reverse and us to have an alt season on Pulse Chain. The last significant alt season that we had or good market cycle we had was over a year ago on Pulse Chain, where Pulse Chain actually went above the sacrifice price. And I do think we're due for a big move up on Pulse Chain, especially with ETH kind of making its way back up towards its all-time high. And by strategically using the funds at the right time, I think this could definitely help the success of the protocol long term.
Yeah. This chart here, I threw it together yesterday. I had an idea and I was like, let's put it together. And it's honestly, it doesn't tell me much. It doesn't tell me much, but there you have it. From October to September, you got the PTDC's volume, price, yield, and token value. So
what's the difference between price and token value?
That's the price of each token, and then the value of the tokens that you earned in yield.
Okay.
Like if you earned 100 tokens, then their value and the price is 0.001, then you earn 10 cents or whatever of tokens. And then the price is obviously the price of each token.
Yeah, one thing that I think is interesting about this chart is the price and the volume, right? You can see how correlated price is with volume from this chart. Mm-hmm. And I think it's even more correlated with PLS's price. So you use obviously there's days that have high volume, but if you take the average volumes of a whole month and then you look at PLS's price, you can directly see the PTGC volume is very much dependent on PLS's price, because PLS's price is dependent on new value flowing in and new users flowing in. And as PLS increases, the whole entire liquidity web increases, which makes it to where market makers need to move more money. For an example, if PLS increases 2x and everything on chain increases 2x, well, now market makers need to move 2 times the amount of money. Well, that means our volume naturally will 2x just based on the market makers having to move 2 times the amount of money as well. So This is one big thing that I pay attention to, is the correlation of our price, PLS's price, and the volume of the PTGC and UFO system.
Okay. We're on slide 4 of 45.
Okay, yeah, let's keep going.
And similar, I should actually rearrange these, but this is similar to the one we were looking at for PTDC. This is UFO from August to September in average price, volume, reflections, and LP yield. And clearly everything has increased. You know, the price has done, you know, a number of X's. Volume has done about a 2X, almost a 2X. Reflections have, let me see, let me get my mind on this. The number of tokens earned in reflections has decreased by, what is that, like about a 6X, almost a 7X, but the value of the tokens has increased by maybe 10%. The LP yield, and this is per 100 million UFO shares. Let me get this, I get this thing out of the way. The LP yield also, well, hold on. The number of tokens, the number of PLS that we earned increased, and the value of those tokens increased. That we actually earned twice the number of PLS in September, this last September versus August of 2024. And the reason for that is Pulse has decreased in price. So we're earning more PLS now. And because the volume increased, we're earning more in value also. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, one thing I noticed with the UFO reflections, this would be a great example. If you delayed your reflections 1 year, you would have been earning, you know, quite a bit more in token quantity a year ago, and the price per token would be up. I think you were saying roughly 10x or something like that. Yeah. So by delaying it, you would actually not only increase the quantity of tokens that you received, which you would have received that anyways, but what you delayed is the price. The price now is 10 times higher than if you just took the profits in the APY a year prior. And I am interested to see if, you know, 1 year from now, if that's somewhat relative still, maybe we're 10x higher, maybe we're 100x higher, you know, maybe we're only 2x higher. I think that is somewhat dependent on the success of the blockchain. Obviously, within our own ecosystem, we're going to do our best to do as many X's against the blockchain either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's our market cap performance. It's down a little bit from, you know, when I updated the slide, the market cap is down a little bit. So, but we're still up 836%. PTDC, UFO is up 665%. And this, by the way, is from August 2024 to September 2025. The HEX in comparison is up 96%, eHEX 138%, PulseX 35%, Pulse 1%, and Inc is down 15%. And here is the performance in PLS. In PLS terms from August to September, PTDC is up, you know, over 1,000%, UFO is up 900%, and then HEX, Pulse, and Inc. in core asset terms. So this is just PTDC in core asset terms. In Pulse terms, PulseX, HEX, Inc., and PDI. And we are outperforming all 5 of those assets. And, you know, some more, you know, like PLS, that's 11x. Inc., that's almost 19x. Where PTDC is up 19x in terms of Inc. in the last year, 13 months. And then UFO, pretty much the same story, especially against Inc.
Yeah, that's not a small amount, especially in somewhat larger, sustainable, trusted, battle-tested assets.
Yes.
One thing that really stands out to me is what those X's mean when the asset that we're connected to actually starts moving up as well. Again, the X multiplier, these are our X's against those assets, but what happens when we still maintain those X's or even do more X's against those assets, and that asset that we're connected to actually starts moving up with us and starts working with us instead of just being stagnant.
Yep, lots of yield coming into our wallets. Here's PTDC and WPLS and USD PLS is in the purple, USD is in the green. And this is, we just added September on the end there. Then UFO, NW, PLS, and USD. PTDC in USD and PLS volume. So you have the PTDC price in the bright yellow, PTDC volume in the lighter yellow, and then PLS volume in purple.
Yeah, they seem to be tracking really close to each other right now. You can see when the price starts going up and the volume starts going up, they spread it from each other a little bit, but now that they're consolidating, they've actually fallen in a very close range.
Yeah. Right. So if you look at February 2025, PTDC price was, that's the brighter yellow, and then the pulse volume is the purple. PTDC's volume is that lighter yellow, and yeah, PTDC's volume was rocking compared to pulse volume. That's good. And then we have UFO in USD and pulse volume. And it's different. UFO is different. Like its volume was below that of the PLS volume in this chart, versus the PTDC chart.
Yeah, UFO's been struggling a little bit with the human interaction side on the volume. I do think that's going to wake up drastically when the machine gets kind of turned back on again. The machine of both PTDC and UFO, in my opinion, have been drastically suppressed. If you talk about PLS's price being suppressed and everything in the liquidity web being suppressed as far as the Richard assets, this is the majority of the liquidity web. If you do think all that stuff is suppressed, you're actually suppressing the machine. So I do think that by suppressing the UFO machine, it's actually suppressing the human interaction as well, because humans are having a hard time seeing how powerful this machine could be in the future. But by these assets moving back up, by volume and volatility picking back up on chain, I think this is in a way going to increase the human interaction to it as well, because when the mechanical interaction picks up, this is going to put eyeballs back on UFO, and
Yes.
People are going to then regain back their positions or get exposed to it right off. Especially, I do think there is opportunity in the fact that you can get large percentages of UFO supply, which is a deflationary supply. There's going to be less and less forever for relatively cheap compared to PTDC. So
yeah, 4-to-1. You can get 4 times the amount of supply of UFO versus PTDC right now. And what was I going to say?
Which I do think it does make sense, since UFO does feed PTDC, and then along with PTDC's liquidity being burnt instead of UFOs being provided by the user. But I think a 4-to-1 ratio, as far as with the products being very, very similar as far as their mechanics go, is quite a big difference. And I do believe there's opportunity there right now, but that opportunity, I think, is being somewhat hidden because of the fact that the web is currently extremely suppressed in the UFO system.
Yeah. I mean, we added 9 UFO wallets in September. That was probably the worst month, actually. I bet that was the worst month. I'd bet $1 million PTDC on it. That was the worst month in our history.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. Just saying it like it is. Not that I don't believe in UFO. I absolutely do. When this market turns on, UFO going to come to life, and everybody's going to understand what it is. Here's PTDC, UFO, and pulse volume. UFO being in the purple. Yeah, look at it. It's a little low. And pulse in the dark green. It's just where we are in the cycle, man. Oops. PTDC ratio and price. That's the PTDC to pulse ratio and PTDC price. over time, 13 months. UFO ratio and price. PTDC total fee distribution in dollars from December through September. You know, we had that big run up from like December through February, March, and we had a lot of fees distributed. I wish I had the amounts. Maybe that'll be in the next iteration of slides. And then UFO total fees distributed. PTDC tokens available for purchase. And I don't know whether I get that from the PulseTGC.com or look into. I might have to go look in my spreadsheet.
Yeah, I really like this slide. Obviously, we've had an increase in supply available for the last 3 months, but still, even with the price drop, there's very, very little supply even on the market for the rest of the world. And if new users start flowing into PulseChain, I don't see a reason why they aren't going to be wanting to be exposed to PTDC and UFO. On top of that, even if they don't want to be exposed to PTDC and UFO and they just expose themselves to Richard's tickers, there's such, since we're bonded with Richard's tickers, it's almost the same thing to an extent in an indirect way. There's just not much for the rest of the world. And then we have to kind of ask ourselves how strong we think our own community, our sub-community is going to be with their investment increasing and them holding on to that investment. I think it's going to be stronger than most other tokens due to a lot of the features we have within the protocol, the deflationary supply, and most importantly, the APY built into the protocol. Because as the price increases, as their investment increases, if they feel safe and secure in the protocol and they're being paid to stay in the system, that value is actually working capital. And working capital in a self-custody way is very rare to find in the real world, especially in assets that can appreciate more than 10% a year, right? Like a lot of more in real life assets are appreciating 10% a year, and majority of that appreciation is just from inflation of the US dollar or fiat, you know, wherever currency you're in. To where in cryptocurrency, you have a system where you have self-custody, you have it at your asset is actually working capital within the liquidity web system. But on top of that, you can actually wake up a year later and be up 2x, 3x, 10x, possibly 100x because of us being here on PulseChain. Obviously, as time goes on and growth continues, there is an S-curve with all these things. If you look at an S-curve, it starts out kind of flat, and then there's this massive ramp-up period, and then it kind of starts leveling out again at the top. I do want to remind users, if you believe in this S-curve thing, PulseChain hasn't even started moving up yet.
That's very true, man.
So
yes,
this cycle, it might not even be this cycle, right?
Sure.
But if you believe in that, but if it is this cycle, like we haven't even started our process of the S-curve, and that means PTGC in a way hasn't started it either.
Right. I think, we lost. Okay. I think that we think that because PulseChain has been out for 2 years or whatever, however long it's been out, is it 2.5 years already? I think it's 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Just because PulseChain's been out
4.5 years if you include the sacrifice too.
Yeah. Therefore we're like, hey, this thing should have done 100x already. I'm like, well, maybe not. So PTDC and UFO percent of PulseChain volume. How about that? September, let's see, PTDC's percent is in the yellow, and then UFO is in the green. And then if you look at the bars at the top, like we were literally, the two tokens combined a little more than 1.5% of all the volume on PulseChain. in September, and our volume was not stellar. But look at where it was last September at just over 1%. We're 0.5% more of the volume in volume. I love this one, man. I can't wait.
You know, when you look at the volume records for PulseX, at least, I usually look at it on gopulse.com. There might be better sites to look at it, I don't know. But there's been ranges where volume has just dropped off the, you know, where we're pretty much at right now. It's at this like $10 million a day average, $11 million, 13, just around that range. Those are like the lows. You have to remember, majority of that is just market makers fixing prices, just like our system. PulseX is pretty much a big liquidity web in a way. So that's a majority of where the volume comes from on PulseX. This is a good majority of where our volume comes from as well. But what I'm getting at is you can actually see on this chart, and you could almost overlay it, every single time volume picks up on chain, this is directly correlated with PLS's price, PTGC's price, UFO's price. So when things are low, when volume is low, you can actually make a pretty educated guess prices are going to be low too. But the low volume and volatility prices aren't around forever. So some people are going to take advantage of that if they're here on Pulse Chain and get the positions in the protocols that are battle tested. And some will wait and just kind of just let the chain go if they're happy with the positions they already hold. You know, especially if you don't have dry powder or anything like that, there's nothing really you can do.
Yep. How PTDC is burned. This is basically what burns PTDC. PTDC in the yellow, UFO burning of PTDC in the green, and then other, which could be the DAO and other protocols that are burning PTDC in blue. And see, you can see back in April and May when the DAO was burning a lot of PTDC. And then September, the PTDC burned more PTDC than anything else. UFO tokens burned. Not super exciting. And I'm not being bearish. I just got to be that guy that has to just tell it like it is, you know. Don't need to sugarcoat anything when we know where things are going. Here are PTDC reflections, staking, and locking rewards per 100 million tokens. So your reflections are in yellow, staking rewards are in blue, and the locking rewards are in green. Now, we had significantly more locking rewards in August than September. And September was just so slow. And I think that contributed to there not being a lot of unlocking. I am so excited to see what's going to happen when we go up in the cycle for locking in particular. PTDC reflections, staking, and locking rewards in dollars per 100 million tokens. Reflections in yellow, staking in blue, and then locking. And this is pretty much the same chart, just in dollar value.
Yeah, real quick, Banana, since we're on the topic of locking, I do want to bring up real quick for any new listeners. The locking feature within PTGC isn't mandatory to earn APY or anything like that. It's an option to earn additional APY. You can just hold PTGC, earn APY. You can stake, earn 150% roughly more APY, and you can even go a step further and lock your assets to delay your own gratification. So a lot of people don't realize one of the biggest risk factors in being the top performing assets is yourself. A lot of people will run something up 5x and sell themselves out of the golden goose due to the lack of gains in the rest of crypto assets. You have to kind of pay attention to the best assets that exist and really look at how many people sold those assets too early. Bitcoin, Ethereum, the biggest risk was actually themselves a lot of times because they took profits too soon. But another thing that is built into the PTGC code that wasn't even planned, just kind of worked out, is the locking is actually a protection feature against wallet hackers as well. So it's almost like at your house. If you've had a bunch of cash are you going to put the cash on the counter, like in a standard wallet, or are you going to put a large amount of cash in your safe? Are you going to put an extra layer of protection over it to where if someone was to break into your house, it's not right on the counter for them to take? You're actually putting it behind a safe. Does that mean that they can't get at that value? No, they can rip the safe out if they can cut into it. Obviously, they can get it if they really want it. This is kind of similar for the PTGC locking. There is ways for those wallet drainers and stuff to get at that value. But what we've actually found is by people locking their asset, they've actually been able to protect their PTGC from wallet drainers. And that's been the only value that has remained in their wallet. They've been able to revoke contracts and actually get at all of their PTGC that they had, which if they were not locked, their value would have been lost. So it's a very important feature, I think, for just an extra layer of security. Even if you were to just lock your stuff up 90 days, fulfill your time lock, and then just keep it in the liquid lock, giving it that protection layer that has been known for saving some people in the past. This is one thing that I think is completely overlooked as of right now. There isn't a lot of additional privacy features in self-custody wallets, ledgers, MetaMask, and people lose value all the time by connecting to the wrong sites. By having just one layer of protection over your store of value could actually save your whole entire portfolio.
Absolutely.
And the best example is, I think, the just safe in your house. Usually within your own house, even though you feel safe in your house, you still go the extra mile to protect your assets within your own house. I look at the PTGC locking system kind of similar to that. Yes, there is some form of a delay, the 90 days, if you want to only do the 90 days. 3 months is really not that long of time, even if it's just with a portion of your portfolio. Obviously, if you want to go a step further and utilize the protocol as it's intended, you can create or locking ladders to actually be able to see your portfolio 10 years out, right? You look at Bitcoin's even more than 10 years out, but the people who were able to delay the gratification at least of a portion of their portfolio were the ones who won the hardest, right? And there is no guarantee that PTGC is the next big thing, but when you look at the fundamentals of it, if you look at the design of it, if you look at the design of the code and what we have specifically put emphasis on, the things that matter, APY, price appreciation, scarcity, I do think it has a great running, especially being on such an undervalued blockchain, that it does make sense to at least take a small amount of your portfolio and lock that thing out a decent amount of time to not only see the real growth of the protocol long term, but also protect some of it against wallet drainers, and also be a part of the community for a long period of time. Like, just because you take some profits doesn't mean you have to completely leave the community. We want users to take profits. We want PTGC to change people's lives. We also want you to remain part of the community for as long as Pulse Chain exists. Be happy that you made gains and be a part of the community that's actually supported you and your family. And by locking out portions of your portfolio a long ways, this helps you remain in the community even as you've taken profits throughout time.
Yes. And locking anything less than 10 years is beneficial to the protocol, because when you claim the locking rewards, a portion is sent to the burn address and your portion is sent to your wallet. So it increases your position and the position of everybody else, and it increases the price at the same time. The value.
And it helps for onboarding too. When users hop into our DApp and they see 45% of our supply actually locked out, even if that involves like liquid locks, but the fact that the community has put their tokens a step further, it's almost like taking the cash out of your wallet and putting it in the safe, or putting it in the savings account. It shows at least yourself or your family that, hey, we're saving this money for the long term. Yes, we can access it at any moment, or a portion of it at any moment, but we're taking steps to say, hey, we're not spending this tomorrow when we're walking throughout the mall.
Locking to new people demonstrates two things: belief in the system that it's going to be here for 10 years. And what was the second thing? And that, those tokens are locked up. They're not going anywhere. Belief in the system and the tokens ain't going anywhere. Yep. Here's PTDC liquidity. And this is just the total liquidity over time. UFO liquidity over time, 13 months. How much PTDC was unlocked early? And this is from January through September. And speaking of liquidity, we have the liquidity for both PTDC and UFO in this slide, separated individually and then combined in that blue in the both at the bottom. So this was just earlier this week, and it's separated out by RH cores in the yellow, and then in the green is just other. So PTDC has $5.6 million in LP, UFO 8.4 total. And then both, combined is $14 million. But UFO has more LP with RH tickers at 5.7. So it has like almost double the liquidity with RH tickers.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I think that's a huge illustration of the suppression of UFO going on if you consider a suppression of RH tickers going on. The very large amount of liquidity, especially ratio against other liquidities, it's just been very heavily suppressed. But if those assets, which, obviously we're on Pulse Chain, so I think anyone on Pulse Chain does believe that there's going to be a bull market for Richards tickers here soon. We hope here soon that this is a massive waking up event of the UFO code and its own liquidity web.
Yep. Okay. Here are the PTDC LPs. I brought in this one to include more. So you can see the biggest LP is WPLS at 26.7. And then with UFO, 32.9. Pulse Inc. The third biggest LP is with Inc. at 12.3. PulseX 11.1, Hex 10.3, and then Atropa up there at 3.6, and then two others. Here's UFO LPs. Its biggest LP being with PTDC, followed by WPLS at 20.9, PulseX at 15.3, Hex at 14.9. You can see the rest. PTDC Dolphin position costs decreased from August to September from about 17,000 to about 9,400. So a Dolphin right now costs about $9,400. And those are going to go up. The cost of those positions is going to go up. I was thinking about it last night. Like when I first got in, I basically bought. You could basically get 3 Dolphin positions for $1,000. You could get at that time you could get 3 Dolphin positions for about $1,000. Now it's 1 Dolphin position, $10,000. And with UFO, the Dolphin is $2,300, down from $3,200 in August. PTDC new wallets. Now, September 2025 was probably the fewest for both protocols. PTDC and UFO is probably the fewest wallet adds of any month. I mean, I only started tracking it in September 2024, but in September there was 720. I don't think we've had a slower month for either of these tokens.
Yeah, I think that's also relevant for Pulse Chain, right? I think the new users flowing into Pulse Chain has been drastically decreasing. Just previously, I feel like there was an urgency to get in and get your positions, especially for outside users on outside chains. But due to, it's 2.5 years later, people were expecting a pump, I think pretty soon after launch, and it just hasn't happened. So that urgency factor is completely out the window.
Yes.
But that urgency factor can come back in so quickly.
Real quick. Yeah.
If they see that chart starting to move, I think the Pulse chain in general user base increases, which makes it way easier for us to increase our holder count. In the meantime, whenever I feel it's difficult to onboard from other blockchains or even from within Pulse chain community, just because the community is very low in investment value, right? Everything they're in pretty much is down. And then also new users flowing in is very difficult. It kind of reminds me that it's also important to kind of tackle in real life onboards like you're kind of doing tonight, because they don't really like have emotional attachments to blockchains they're already on. They're not getting
Right.
FOMO from things moving up because they're like watching the charts. They're just looking for a little bit of guidance and someone who has experience in the space to kind of put them in the right direction. Someone like Banana educating someone in real life is pretty much like, I don't know, like, how much knowledge you have in there, like 5 years of knowledge. So you're really like helping guide them through a lot of your learning curve that you went through. And I feel like that has a lot of value. So whenever it is difficult times, but great entry opportunities, I feel, especially with Pulse Chain so low, PTGC so low, this is the time where I think it makes sense to maybe knock on a few doors of people that you know in real life and get a few real life onboards in, because those are the best opportunities to change people that, you're close to or, in real life. And those in real life people usually know people too. And if their portfolio starts to go up, let's say 5x, well, they're most likely going to tell a friend or a family member. And then that's where a more natural growth situation happens with, in my opinion, some of the best types of onboards, people who aren't like rotating very quickly. They can actually withstand the gains and be in products for a long period of time, especially as the idea of long-term crypto investing becomes more adopted. I think it's still working its way in that direction to where people are up 10x and they're like, I need to take profits now. I need to get out now. But it's like, and rotate to what? The best gains are still here in crypto. The people who rotated out of ETH and Bitcoin after a 10x to property or stocks would have been best just staying in crypto, in ETH and Bitcoin. So I think that's obviously the direction everything's headed. And if we can expose some people to great products with good upside potential, obviously letting them know about the risk involved here on chain, in which there is a risk. We're on a blockchain with very little user adoption at the moment, but that could change so rapidly. There's a big marketing campaign going on right now, and we're at the prime time in the bull market to get someone into an alt blockchain.
Yep.
And all sustainable alt tokens on that blockchain, PTGC and UFO.
Yepper. PTDC staking yield is tracking, and compared to volume over time from August to September. Volume being in yellow. Same for UFO. UFO volume in the dark. UFO reflections yield in the dark green. UFO LP yield in the yellow or light green. UFO reflections and LP yield in tokens per 100 million. So in the dark green, reflections. In the light green, LP yield, which is in Pulse. UFO reflections and LP yield, and this is the value for per 100 million. UFO so reflections is in the dark green in the value, and some of the values I don't have in there, and then in the light green is the LP value for every 100 million UFO shares. Slide 39. We're almost there, Zen. Almost there. Here's our token distribution for PTDC and UFO. And this is the PTDC one is just an exact pretty much copy of the one off the pulsetdc.com. And then UFO circulating supply is 80%. And then there's 12.6% in LP, and we burned 7.4%, according to the data that I have. And I think I got it. Oh, let me think. I think I'm getting the burn data off of Look Into.
Yeah, the burn data seems correct.
Okay. Here's PTDC wallet distribution in dollars. And this is just this is a snapshot of September. So there are 7,318 wallets that hold less than $1,000 worth of PTDC. That's a lot. That's a lot of holders with less than 1,000.
A lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of people have taken profits in PTGC. A lot of people have sold a good majority of their bag, and this is a reminder to me of how strong the PTGC machine is, how strong the PTGC community is. Most other protocols would have not been able to put this amount of people in profits, and let alone buy this amount of people out and still remain at high levels. And that is due to the PTGC machine and the ability it has to buy people out mechanically over time. And the crazy part about it is that feature hasn't even really been turned on completely yet.
David Murphy says we need Ethereum, and Richard Hart. Yeah. I'm going to be paying attention to my phone, my deck screener on my phone, a lot more closely when Ethereum is between like $5,000 and $7,000. All right, next slide. Slide 41. PTDC. Now here's PTDC wallet distribution in tokens for September. And it looks like the biggest distribution, and there are 2,800 wallets that have between 10 and 100 million tokens.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of people have those just in case bags.
Yeah.
If you go 1 million, which the 1 million's that just in case bag, I forget how much that costs, but 1 million PTGC to 100 million, which 100 million isn't extremely cheap.
No.
That's kind of a big range, but it is cool to see how many people are in that range.
Yep. And you know what we can do with this data, Zen, is I'm tracking this every month. So each one of these columns, we can take it and look at the history. You know, once we have, I mean, I could do it now if I wanted to, you know, but we have that ability with my spreadsheet. UFO wallet distribution in dollars. So we have over like maybe 5,300 wallets with less than $1,000 in them. Oh, I'm sorry. This one's not updated. That is not updated. Oh, that's because Secreto Bank was not working yesterday when I was doing that. So, and then here's PTDC paired tokens represented in sea creatures. PTDC has whale positions in Your Mom, X, and UFO. Shark positions in Teddy, Pedi, Most, Atropa, E-Hex, Pulse, and Peacock, and dolphin positions in Ink, Pulse X, and Hex. I love looking at it that way. Like I'm not a whale in Your Mom, but I hold the token that is. And then
yeah, UFO. I wonder what we are in Pump. I know PTGC has a good chunk of Pump too, which is a Richard meme. But
I'll add that. Okay, let me just write this down. I'll add Pump. And then same for UFO. Okay.
Yeah,
UFO is
the EHEX one in UFO. If EHEX goes on a massive run this cycle, that alone is going to really push UFO up against a lot of assets, which in turn will buy and burn a ton of PTGC too. It's kind of funny.
Yes. And we're shark with shark position in Inc, Most, Pump, Hex, Pulse, PulseX, and PDI. And we're dolphins in Axis and Wrapped Bitcoin. Yeah, man. That's the last slide, Zen.
Cool.
Yeah, we made it. Hope everybody enjoyed that. I hope you got value out of it. Did you get value out of that, Zen?
Yeah, I love doing it.
Okay.
It's honestly one of my favorite streams we do because we got a like an agenda we got to keep following, which is kind of nice, to be honest.
Yeah.
Instead of just winging and going all over the place.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have an agenda. And man, I think I was telling Mando on Spaces on Monday or Saturday, and like, there's nothing like looking at these charts and seeing where we were at the beginning, and at least since I've been keeping record, and where we are now, and everything in between. It just, I don't know, it just helps me. You know, I'm sure it helps you too, and the audience.
Yeah, so it's nice to, because a lot of people look at charts in the dailies and stuff like that, and sometimes that can be a little bit mentally exhausting, and sometimes you have to look at, hey, look at where I got in, or, where some people are down from where they got in, but look at where I got in, look at where this could go, look at where the things we are bonded to are currently, and that being a big reason of where we are right now, and how rapidly this can change. And the next time we move up to the next level, and the people who are even a little bit down are now up, you kind of have to look at that and be like, okay, well, what in real life could offer me this kind of growth? Even if you're only up 2x, what in real life can offer you 2x growth in that amount of time, plus APY, plus a hyperdeflationary token? There's just not a lot of options out there with that kind of exposure to a brand new type of asset, cryptocurrency, with the ability to, even just if we're up 5x from here, like Pulsechain, even once up 5x, has the potential to pump up another 20x in a very short amount of time, and being able to be exposed to life-changing growth in a short amount of time, but still being in a sustainable system with a utility, with APY built into the system, with scarcity, is just super unique. And it is cool to sit back and kind of think, just like, hey, this whole thing in a week from now could be such a different environment than it is today. Like, we could wake up tomorrow and there could be the best news out on Pulsechain that we've been waiting for. It could happen at any moment. And when that moment flicks, like, the whole morale, the whole energy of Pulsechain can shift so rapidly that everything could just start moving. And that's why I keep kind of, I want to spend a lot of time educating people on PTGC and what it could be in the future, because I strongly believe there is an amazing opportunity right now to get exposed to a position. And you don't have to expose yourself a crazy amount. Like you always say, Banana, a just-in-case bag is possibly enough. Even, I think 1 million is a little bit on the lower end, but if you can get your hands on 10 million PTGC or like 30 million UFO, I know it's not like couch cushion money. It is a little bit, but it is something I think a lot of people within this space can scrounge for and try to figure out how to obtain. And with what PTGC, as far as a product, as far as a decentralized store value system with its own good product market fit, plus the fact that it's on an extremely undervalued blockchain, is just an opportunity that I don't think will ever come up again in our lifetimes. And
Yeah.
there is risk there. There is. I understand the risk, but the reward or the opportunity that presents itself from that risk is once in a lifetime, in my opinion. Obviously, that could backfire, and we could all be like, "Wow, hey, that risk to reward. We obviously took the risk, and there's the risk. We didn't make back the money, but the reward can literally be life-changing amounts of money for you and your family."
Yes. The higher the risk, the higher the reward is. Mando touched on the new site for all the stats.
That I'm working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there. I think the devs told me that they have PTGC completely finished. They're now wrapping up UFO. By next week, I should have the site fully done, and I'll probably pass it along to like you and myself to go over it on streams and stuff like that. But I do not want to just pass it out to the community quite yet, because I want to get it audited, and I want to do my own personal auditing as well, testing all the features before it goes live. This also gives us the opportunity to kind of run through everything, and if we need to make any minor adjustments that the community suggests as it's maybe pulled up on your screen, we can do that as well. If you or anyone else wants to do some in real life testing alongside with me, I'd obviously appreciate that. Just, I suggest making a completely separate wallet, playing with just small amounts of money, to where if there is an issue within the testing, it's not connected to your, main wallets. That's how I test, is I just make a brand new wallet and I do everything from start to finish. I'll do staking, I'll do locking, I'll end some locks, I'll, do some LP ads. And then after I've kind of ran through everything on my own, I then will probably give it to an auditing company for one last look through.
Okay. He is actually.
In the meantime, the stats page will be ready, and I want it to be utilized by you and me, and we can go over that stuff on stream and let people look at it, etc.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. We'll definitely stream. He's saying that Mando was saying that there's a new site for Pulse Chain stats. I just don't know what the URL is. Do you know?
No, I don't know what he's talking about.
Okay.
Maybe Richard just put out something?
Yeah, perhaps.
Maybe if you got a second.
All right, let's do it. Let me go to my Twitter. Give me a second.
Yeah,
and
I don't see anything. So
okay. We will be on Spaces tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific. You sent it to, let me check my messages. Oh, he probably sent it to my Twitter messages. Aha. Nope. I don't see it there. Sorry, Mando. Oh, here it is. PulseChainStats.com. Let me pull it up on my screen over here. And we'll have a look at it. Just give me a second. I got to drop this down, drag this over. And put that up on the screen. PulseChainStats.com. You got PulseX stats, Pulse Stats, Hex, Bridge, Gas, Validators, Pump Tires, ETH Treasuries, Token Rankings, Leagues. Oh, that's cool. ROI charts, ecosystem. Getting started on Pulse Chain and portfolio. Oh, so it looks like you can track your portfolio on here too. Wow. That is a lot of tabs to review. So, what we can do is talk about this on Spaces tomorrow. I will review it, and then we can talk about it on the Spaces. Wow, 375,000 Hex holders. Sweet. Well, I should be able to make use of that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be on Spaces tomorrow. I think that's a wrap, Zan. You agree?
Yeah, let's call it and get back to work.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see y'all later.